Hello, everybody, and welcome into officially now episode 2 of the Patriots Roundtable podcast. Joined by Tyler Geis, I am Eddie Murata, and we are so excited to be bringing you a Patriots playoff preview. For the first time, the New England Patriots are set to host a playoff game at Gillette Stadium since January of 2020, and this time Mike Vrabel is on the home team's sideline. We're going to be diving deep into this Patriots-Chargers Sunday Night Football wild card weekend extravaganza. But first, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that last Week 18 regular season game, the Patriots' 38-10 win over the Miami Dolphins. We're also going to be picking all of the wild card weekend games here today. We got a lot in store for you on episode 2 of the Patriots Roundtable podcast. So I hope that you are ready to buckle up and come on this ride with us as we dive right in. Tyler, it was quite the showing for the Patriots in their Week 18 win over the Dolphins, especially in that second half where the defense allowed just 42 yards to the Dolphins in the entirety of that second half and 0 points. They were really able to use that momentum to pull away late in this game and secure that 14-3 record that we were talking about last week. Nobody saw this coming. Your overall impressions from that Dolphins win?
I was absolutely nervous around the second quarter when it was tied 10-10 because I was like, this cannot be happening right now. There's so much going on. That Broncos-Chargers game was still kind of low soaring. So I was like, no, come on, like something could happen. But then the Broncos ended up winning that game. But I pure dominance. It's Miami, but I think before we got on the airwaves here, it's Miami at Gillette Stadium in January. What do you expect? At the time we're recording this, you found out Mike McDaniel was fired by the Dolphins as well. That I honestly found as a shock. I thought he'd at least hang out for one more year and see how it goes. But I know the Dolphins have kind of had their, how do I put it? They've had their dysfunction this season, whether it's at the front office or players or coaching personnel. This isn't a Dolphins podcast. I'm not going to harp on that. I knew the Patriots probably weren't going to do a lot of big passing because we thought we saw a lot in the run game. We saw a lot of Steven and Henderson. I'm getting my tongue tied here. However, we did see Diggs get 1,000 yards. That's a big thing. I think he's the first person since Julian Edelman in 2019. Which is the last real kind of standout year for the Patriots, despite they made the playoffs in 2021. But I think that year we knew not much was going to happen with Mac Jones. So this was just a great cap off to a dominant year. The Dolphins could have come away with this. They could have just played for pride. But the Dolphins are the Dolphins. The Patriots are the Patriots. And, yeah, we don't get the first round bye, but 2 seed at home on a Sunday night, the atmosphere in Gillette Stadium is going to be rocking, and I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would second a lot of what you said. The Dolphins are definitely the Dolphins. I found Mike McDaniel's firing a little bit surprising myself just because it didn't come in that Black Monday window where we're used to seeing all of those coaches get canned. And there were a few on Black Monday this year, 7 different head coaching openings by the time we got through the end of Tuesday when you saw John Harbaugh get let go by the Baltimore Ravens. I think that was probably the most surprising one to me. And you could potentially look at the Dolphins and their situation and how late they let go of Mike McDaniel as a potential indicator that they might be interested in Harbaugh. We're not going to go off, like you said, this isn't a Dolphins podcast. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on John Harbaugh's head coaching search here, but he's definitely going to be a coveted candidate no matter where he lands up. Definitely going to have a lot of interviews. But that Week 18 win for the Patriots against the Dolphins did just kind of feel like the final nail in the coffin and a fresh reset for this organization in Miami. That now seems like they're moving on from Tua. New coach, new quarterback. We'll see what happens with the GM there. But We didn't know going into Sunday how competitive a team they were actually going to field. They kept it pretty interesting with the Patriots in that first half. New England, like you mentioned, much more focused on being efficient on the offensive side of the ball. Only 18 attempts for Drake Maye in this game. He went 14 of 18. Another 100-plus quarterback rating. He broke Tom Brady's record of 12 100-plus quarterback rating games in a season this year with that performance on Sunday. Also broke Brady's 2007 single-season record with a 72% completion percentage on the year. Just incredible. We could go down the list of stats for Drake Maye, and we're definitely going to as we go along in this podcast. We'll save a lot of that more so for when we talk about this upcoming Chargers matchup, but much more heavy in the run game as we kind of expected going into that Miami game. I thought really interesting in terms of the split of touches between Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. Henderson led in touches. Stevenson led in production. He had 7 carries, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then he also added a receiving touchdown, his first career 3-touchdown performance. And he was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week for Week 18. He was the first Patriots running back to be awarded that since Dion Lewis in 2017. So that goes back quite a ways there. A great performance for New England in this one, even though they kind of kept things on the down low. I don't think we saw too many wrinkles from them. But a couple of things that I think we're going to see come back up when we get into playoff action this weekend, starting with a 6 offensive lineman approach that is the subject here of our all-22 review for the week. For the All-22 review this week, we're going to be taking a look at a fun one. The Patriots pulling out the Wildcat formation against the Miami Dolphins and scoring a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson's first of 3 on the day. And when we start to break this down, we're not going to go too deep into the X's and O's, but one thing I do want to highlight before everybody runs off the screen here is the personnel package for the Patriots. This is about as heavy a heavy look gets in the NFL. When we're counting bodies, no receivers on the field here. We have a tackle eligible in Thayer Munford lined up all the way on the right of the formation. 2 tight ends here with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper flanked out left. They're going to be joined pre-snap by Jack Westover as Drake Maye moves out wide to the right. That leaves Stevenson all alone here in the Wildcat formation and unbalances the formation for the Miami Dolphins. When we're counting bodies on the left and right-hand side of the center, we're going to take Garrett Bradbury here as the center. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3 on the right-hand side. We are very heavy on the left side of the formation here for the Patriots. And for the Dolphins, they are matching with 4 guys over on the right-hand side where the run is going. So to even things out, Garrett Bradbury at the snap. We're going to get a block down here. We're going to get a block down here. We're going to get a seal out here. And Bradbury is going to pull over to the linebacker to even things up for the Patriots, opening that hole between Morgan Moses, the right tackle, and Bradbury, the center, pulling to the outside to create the touchdown, a walk-in for Ramondre on, again, his first of 3 of the day. So Ramondre Stevenson gets into the end zone there on the Wildcat formation. Remember, the Dolphins made that famous against the Patriots with Ronnie Brown back in the day. Nice little wrinkle from Josh McDaniels down near the goal line there to pull the Wildcat back out against the Dolphins in what was a fantastic showing on both sides of the football for the Patriots in that Week 18 win. But we're going to flip things over to the defensive side of the ball now for the Patriots as we start to break down this Chargers game in a matchup that I think, Tyler, is extremely interesting because there are a lot of strength on strength areas and a lot of weakness on weakness areas. And I think depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking to Patriots fans, they're all excited to play the Chargers. This is the team that everybody was hoping we were going to get matched up against if you're a Patriots fan, right? I think if you talk to Chargers fans, because of where the Patriots are weak in this game, this is the matchup that they wanted as well. And I think that starts on the offensive side of the football for LA. You know, we talk about Justin Herbert all the time. Everybody knows how prolific a quarterback he is in this league, and he's largely carried this Chargers team this year. He's got some pieces on the outside. In an ideal world, if we're just looking at all the names here, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, first-round pick, and Omarion Hampton in the backfield. It seems like Justin Herbert has all of these weapons all around him and a coach in Jim Harbaugh that can kind of scheme things up, balanced offensive approach where they can kind of nickel and dime you all the way down the field with that nice balance between the run game and the pass game. But it hasn't really been all that efficient on the field for LA this season. And that's been in large part due to a rotating cast on their offensive line. The Chargers have started the most offensive line combinations in the league this year, playing the season with over 32 different combinations along that offensive line. They rank 31st in the NFL, ahead of only the Cleveland Browns in pass blocking grade. So that's going to definitely be something to watch as the game progresses along, is going to be this Patriots defensive line, which has struggled this season to get to the quarterback, against a Chargers offensive line that has really struggled to protect Herbert. He's been sacked 54 times on the year. He's been hurried on 40% of his dropbacks, which is an NFL high since all the way back in 1999. They're going to be trying to keep him upright. The Patriots are going to be trying to get there. What else are we looking at in this game when the Patriots are on defense?
I kind of think you knocked it out of the park there, man, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun for a guy like Mike Vrabel. Herbert likes to scramble. He has the receivers to dish it out there. I just don't think he has the time sometimes. I mean, that's why they're like it said, they're 31st behind the Browns. The Chargers, to me, I think the reason why Pats fans are excited to probably play the Chargers this week is the Chargers are a good football team, I think, when they can be, but they're also kind of clunky. I think we're going to see Herbert running around a lot. And I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I think Herbert's probably going to probably run himself way too out of this game too much, where he doesn't really. I just see the Patriots really kind of pressuring him 4 quarters and keeping him to be not a factor in this game.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be the key for this Patriots defense, right? And I think for Herbert going into this one too, he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove here. He's 0-2 in his playoff career now. His first loss came against the Jacksonville Jaguars in a game where the Chargers led 27-0 in the first half and then just collapsed in the second half. And arguably, his second performance in the playoffs to follow that up, the redemption for him, the opportunity that he got there was even worse, right? He lost 32-12 to the Houston Texans in a game where he only completed 43% of his passes and threw 4 interceptions in that game. So both career outings for Herbert in the playoffs haven't looked all that pretty. And yeah, he has been carrying this Chargers team all season long. It really started back in training camp when they lost their starting left tackle, Rashawn Slater, for the year due to injury. They tried to shift last year's first-round pick, Joe Alt, who was playing right tackle, back over to the position that he played in college at left tackle. And he was doing a serviceable job for them there through November when he also suffered a season-ending injury. Their replacements for both of those guys have been injured. Their replacements have been injured. They tried trading for Trevor Penning on the Saints to try and be a stopgap there. And just nothing has worked for them on the offensive line. Again, 32 different combinations. But I think you also touched on something where Herbert likes to escape and run around and try and make plays for himself. He's kind of been forced to this year a little bit, but he's been successful with it, right? He leads the NFL with 9 touchdowns coming outside of the pocket. So when he gets outside of the structure of a play, that's where he can do some damage. And I think the thing that makes this even more interesting for the Patriots, because you could say, okay, they have a terrible offensive line. Let's just go and blitz them and make things extremely confusing, bring extra rushers. Pretty much all of Herbert's blitz statistics this year, stats against the blitz, he's top 5 or top 10 in nearly every statistical category. What's that?
Sorry, 9 touchdowns outside the pocket for Herbert, right?
Yeah, 9 touchdowns outside the pocket, and he is a menace against the blitz. So it kind of forces you to get home with your front four, and that's been something the Patriots have struggled to do all season long. Only 35 sacks on a year, which ranks them right in the mid-20s in the league. They need to find a way to get home with that defensive line. I think for them this week, though, having Milton Williams back, Harold Landry has missed some time. You're hopeful that he comes back by the time Sunday rolls around. And then over the top of those guys, Robert Spillane in the run game, helping that out to shut down this Chargers rushing attack, which can definitely get going in a hurry, is going to be a major key for them. Let's talk a little bit more about this running game, though. I mentioned a little bit earlier, the Chargers picked Omarion Hampton from North Carolina in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, but he's only played 9 games this season, and he's second on the team in rushing yards. He dealt with an ankle injury that kept him out of the beginning of the year. He also missed Wednesday's practice with an ankle injury, so something to monitor. I don't think it's anything that's going to keep him out of a playoff game if I'm kind of looking into my crystal ball here. But what do the Chargers need to do to kind of take some pressure off of Herbert with that running game?
I think they have to establish it really quickly early on. I think the Chargers, so my prediction on this game, and I know we're not going to get into predictions really just yet. I know we're making some picks later on. The Chargers I don't see this being as much of a shootout as much as I think people want it to be with Herbert and Maye. I think the Chargers want to establish the run early on and show that they're not afraid of the fact that Milton Williams is back out there on the field, or whoever else the Patriots are going to make active Sunday night. But I don't think they're going to be running up and down the field with long distance at all. I think the Patriots can contain that, and they'll maybe get that. The Herbert will probably get that maybe on scrambles outside down the field to Keenan Allen. But I think the Chargers strive in the run game within the red zone against the Patriots. That's just my take going into that. I could see the final score of this game being 28-21 Pats. Pats pull away later on after they kind of get a grip on the Chargers in the run game.
Yeah, I think that you're hitting the nail right on the head there. This is going to be a game where if you look at the splits for the Chargers this season, they actually don't run the football as much as a lot of people would expect a Jim Harbaugh offense to do so. They pass on over 62% of their plays while running on just 37% of plays. I think in large part, though, that has been due to their inefficiency, especially on early downs in the run game. And again, this all goes back to to the offensive line. If you're pushed back in second and long and third and long, you're kind of putting an obligation on Justin Herbert to dig you out of a hole. I think that's the same thing that we saw a lot with the Patriots and Drake Maye last year, where it was like he had all the tools, everything was there, but you're looking at the 4-13 record and saying, what went wrong for a guy that is this talented? And when you're looking at the games, it was a lot of 3rd and 15, 3rd and 17, where it's like, okay, now Drake Maye, go and save us in this kind of situation like this, right? And that's not a very efficient way to run an offense. Something else that you touched on too that I have as another one of my keys to the game on my Patriots defense versus Chargers offense preview on roundtable.io is the red zone battle in this game. This is one of those areas where it's weakness on weakness. The Chargers rank near the bottom of the league in red zone offense. They don't convert their drives into touchdowns more than 47% of the time, while the Patriots on the flip side, and this has been something that we've been harping on for the entire year, they have a very porous red zone defense, to put it mildly. For most of the season, they ranked dead last, 32 out of 32 in red zone defense, and hovered right around 70% of offensive drives resulting in touchdowns once they got down into the red zone. That improved over the last 2 weeks of the season against the Jets and the Dolphins. The Jets went 0-2. The Dolphins went 1 for 3 with that early touchdown in the game, and then a turnover on downs and an interception by Jalen Hawkins to start that third quarter off for the Patriots. So I think for the Pats, you're looking at the last 2 weeks and you're saying, hey, we've shown improvement in this area. Let's see how that translates over when you're not playing the Jets and when you're not playing the Dolphins. But I think for them, definitely a confidence boost going into wild card weekend.
I think, well, to go back to the all 22 clip, using the Wildcat against the Dolphins, it's nice to stick it to them after that 08 game. I mean, I doubt Josh McDaniels was thinking about that. Maybe he was. Well, actually, he wasn't coaching on the team in 08, so maybe he wasn't. But to kind of see that kind of trickery in the red zone for the Pats after that being a big critique of them all season, I think it's a really good sign going into the playoffs. They don't need to rely on Maye to sling it, which, especially with injuries in the receiving core, if they can do stuff like that inside the 10 or the 5-yard line and put Austin Hooper and Henry Hunter, that the 2 tight end setup on that was, I think that was like really key for me. I love it when the Pats use 2 tight ends because I think defenses get flashbacks of Gronkowski out there, and I'd hate to mention Aaron Hernandez, but like having a 2 tight end setup, I think confuses defense in the sense that they don't know if it's just for blocking or if it's going to be for running. And then to add a Wildcat into the mix, throw some trickery, put Maye out wide. I think it was beautiful. And Dolphins defense might be a little different than a Chargers defense. But if they're going to go into the postseason with that in mind, that we're going to pull some trickery at the goal line, I think that's going to help them putting up 7 points in a playoff game rather than kicking a field goal. Because, like I said, I feel like the Chargers are going to hang around in this game. But if the Pats can put up 7 rather than 3, they can separate themselves probably sooner than maybe I predict.
Yeah, and I think that you're right in line with where I'm thinking on this too. This red zone battle, especially in the playoffs, it's about getting 7s, not 3s, right? And that's going to be something that is on both sides of the football. For the Patriots on defense, you want to make sure that you're holding the Chargers to 3. For the Patriots on offense, we need to see them convert their drives into touchdowns at a much higher clip than they did on the offensive side of the football throughout the course of the regular season. I think, though, and we've seen this from Josh McDaniels in the past, and this is the luxury of having a guy like this back that's been your offensive coordinator for so many years and so many successful years with playoff victories. This is when Josh McDaniels really starts to get into his bag, right? And I think that for the Patriots, especially on offense down near the goal line, they were kind of holding on to a lot. You play your cards a little bit close to the vest, especially as the season goes on. You kind of have a good idea, okay, we're going to be in the mix for the postseason. You don't want to show everything that you have. But I think since the bye week, you've started to see McDaniels be much more creative down near the goal line. Even going back to that Week 15 game against Buffalo, Drake Maye, 2 rushing touchdowns from inside the 10-yard line in the first half of that game. That's what largely helped the Patriots mount that 21-0 lead before we saw that disappear. But when things were going well for them early in the game, it was the use of Maye's legs near the goal line. You go to Week 17, where Stephon Diggs scores a touchdown on a play that was eerily similar to Danny Amendola's 2-point conversion in Super Bowl 51, where they kind of screen him off right near the goal line. And you saw that earlier in the season too, with Diggs' first touchdown reception. And then even again at halftime of that Tampa Bay game, when the half was winding down, they go for the touchdown right as time's expiring, except for instead of kicking the field goal there. And he kind of runs on that inside motion, and then he breaks it to the outside. These plays kind of bounce off of each other. And I think that's what we're going to see going into the postseason here, is we're going to get some similar looks that we've seen from the Patriots with entirely different results towards the end of the play. They're going to be using a lot of misdirection, a lot of different personnel packages on the offensive side of the ball, especially down near the goal line, to try and attack the Chargers in different ways that they haven't seen before.
Agreed.
So I think that also pushes out to, when we're outside of the 20s as well. And I want to just highlight a little bit of what the Chargers are doing on the defensive side of the ball that might be a little bit different than other NFL teams. Right around this time of year in 2025, the Chargers are playing one of the heaviest packages in the league on defense of dime personnel. That means 6 defensive backs are on the field. They like to run 3 safeties a lot and move Derwin James down into the box. They run him at the line of scrimmage or near the line of scrimmage on 85% of his snaps. So he plays a very similar role in their defensive approach to a guy like Kyle Hamilton on the Ravens that the Patriots saw a little bit earlier this year. But that allows them some flexibility with 3 extra corners on the outside to take away a lot of those downfield shots for the offense. And we know the Patriots love to throw the ball downfield. Drake Maye has been the number 1 passer in the league on throws, 10-plus yards downfield, 20-plus yards downfield, 30-plus yards downfield, and that's where this Chargers defense really excels. But I think that, again, going back to the shift that we've seen from the Patriots offensively since the bye week, this is where the Patriots have a real advantage on the offensive side of the ball. What we've seen from the Chargers is a resistance to moving off of those dime packages and matching personnel based on the offensive approach. You brought up earlier a lot of the 2 tight end sets that the Patriots run, and they run more 2 tight end and 2 running back sets than almost anybody in the NFL. But lately we've started to get that 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field. And instead of a third tight end, we've actually seen Thayer Munford, that you saw in the All-22 review, playing a lot of 6th offensive linemen on the field, that 13 personnel heavy package where you have that tackle eligible as an extra meaty blocker in the run game. The Patriots have run the ball 66 times out of similar looks in the regular season. 47 of those rushing attempts came after the bye week, and they averaged 8.3 yards per carry against their opponents when running out of those looks. If the Chargers are walking out there with 6 defensive backs on the field against 2 tight ends and a tackle eligible, and the Patriots are just ramming it down their throats, that's going to be a great matchup for the Pats. You even mentioned earlier establishing the ground game, setting the tone very early on in this one. The Pats are going to be looking to do that here against the Chargers, against what could be a much lighter box than they're used to seeing.
Yeah, I see Drake Maye. I see a lot of stuff being won, a lot of points being scored in the trenches. I don't see Drake Maye. I mean, I'd love to see Drake Maye slinging it. I think we all would. But I would love to see those 3 tight end packages in this game. I think that would confuse the Chargers. give them anxiety, because I don't see them really thriving in those situations. So there's a good chance McDaniels is looking back at a lot of that stuff he called against the Dolphins and Jets to bring to the table with this one. I would think the Chargers would be ready for it. I think they'll compete enough for it. But in the long run, I think the Patriots just have a more physicality to them than Los Angeles does.
Yeah, this isn't going to be about what you're going to be doing in the run game in the first or second quarter. Yeah, it's how these guys are looking by the time we get to the fourth quarter. Close game. You're trying to really manage the clock as much as you're managing your opponent. And how are those lighter personnel packages on defense going to hold up against 6 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends in the fourth quarter when Ramondre Stevenson's coming right downhill at you? And I think that Stevenson is going to be the guy in this game that really benefits from that. When you look at the Chargers, because of those lighter boxes, because of Derwin James playing down near the line of scrimmage, they excel against zone running concepts. They rank top 5 in the league against zone runs and really don't let anything break on the outside of the tackle box against them. But when you look at their splits against gap run schemes, so you're pulling a guard, you're pulling a center, you're pulling a tackle, a staple of Josh McDaniels' offensive running approach for years now. They have been bottom 5 in the league against those types of runs the entire season. And again, that's because you just don't have enough meat on the field to be able to defend against those guys running all the way downhill at you. So this is going to probably be, to me at least, a Stevenson heavy game. And that's a great thing for the Patriots and for Stevenson. When you take a look at where he was earlier in the year, 3 fumbles in his first 5 games, and then to not have one since, he's looked like a new guy really since coming back from that toe injury. He was out weeks 9 through 11 of the regular season, kind of took a little bit to get back up to speed, didn't play all that much against Cincinnati, but especially over the course of the last couple of weeks here, as we've headed into the playoffs, Stevenson looks like he's playing with so much more confidence, and I'm excited to see what he can do against this Chargers run defense.
He's been the biggest turnaround of this year, I feel, because, I mean, I wrote an article, I think back in like week 3 or 4 when he was fumbling left and right, where it's like, I don't know, we might have to look, it's time for Travion Henderson. And we got Henderson, and it's great. But one of the things that's always made the Pats good is their versatility in the run game, or even in the back half of the Belichick-Brady era. Dion Lewis's and James White's out there at the same time. Also got LeGarrette Blount out there to put in the fourth quarter when they wanted to really grind the defense they were playing against down. So I think if we just have versatility in the run game, especially if the passing has to take a back seat, the Patriots will be good, down the stretch, I feel. One thing I want to harp on real quick, this is just in terms of a personality coaching style. I'm just excited to see Mike Vrabel coaching in the postseason again, because I think Vrabel brings an absolutely, as a Pats fan who had to watch him as a Titans fan destroy us in the postseason, that final Brady game at Gillette. A lot of people have been bringing that up on the internet lately. Like, the last time the Pats were really even that good, it was against Mike Vrabel, and now Vrabel's our coach. I just remember watching that game and just feeling like Vrabel meticulously just broke the Patriots. And I didn't study a lot of Tennessee Titans games that year, really. But I just feel like he kind of does that from time to time with teams that he really wants to stick it to. I mean, the first Buffalo game in Western New York always just felt very meticulous and very broken down, and just, the Bills might have had control early on, but Vrabel was still toying with them a little bit. And I'm excited to see Vrabel, what he has for a game plan in this one, being back in the postseason and going against a guy like Harbaugh's kind of, I don't want to say mirror image, but he's going to have his own tricks up his sleeve. I feel like it's going to be an interesting coaching chess match between these two characters.
Yeah, definitely a grade A coach versus coach game here. You have Vrabel, who's still looking to get to his first Super Bowl against Harbaugh, who lost the Super Bowl to his brother, but has won at pretty much every single level. His first chance back in the dance now as well. Both of these guys walking into this game feeling like they have something to prove, and I'm sure excited to see what that looks like for Mike Vrabel. I think just an interesting perspective here. When you look at some of the Vrabel playoff teams in the past, like one of my favorite stories is about that year that they got the #1 overall seed in 2021 and Vrabel won Coach of the Year. I think he won Coach of the Year largely because he still owns the NFL record for having the most players on his roster that year. They played 93 different players on their 53-man roster and got the #1 seed in the AFC that year. And when you look at all the success that he had walking into Gillette Stadium and beating the Patriots, doing push-ups on the field before the game, right, like he was back in his house, this is the best regular season team Vrabel's coached. When you're just looking at record, 14-3, and this is historically a great season for a coach in their first year with a team. Vrabel tied for the most wins in NFL history in their first year with a team. We don't want to see it end just in the regular season, though, right? If you get to 14 wins now, yeah, that's all great because nobody was expecting it early on. Expectations have shifted now. You host a home playoff game. You're coming in against a team like the Chargers where we're looking at a lot of these matchups and saying, okay, there's some things that the Patriots really can take advantage of here. You can't walk out at home on Sunday Night Football in your first playoff game and lay an egg like that. So this is going to be an extremely interesting matchup for New England and on the other side for Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers as they're both trying to prove their worthiness. Herbert's coming in with a chip on his shoulder, like we mentioned earlier, and both of these coaches definitely feel like they have something to prove as we move into the postseason. And we're going to kind of keep it there. We're going to go around the league now with our wild card round game predictions. We're going to keep these short, but we're going to go right in order of how these games are taking place. And we kick things off on Saturday at 4:30 with the Carolina Panthers, the division-winning Carolina Panthers at 8-9, hosting the 5-seed LA Rams. Tyler, who do you like in this game?
I mean, I know the Stafford and Drake Maye debate is starting to teeter back towards Stafford, but time will tell on that. So I know Pats fans aren't going to like this, but I'm really happy what I saw with the Panthers and how they rallied and how impressive they had a back half of the season. But I know the Panthers did have the Rams number in the regular season, I believe. They beat them, right? Yeah. Okay, all right.
That was one of the common opponent games that Drake Maye won and Matthew Stafford lost.
Yeah. So I mean, I know the Panthers had their number there, but I think the Rams are just a better team, and I know the Rams have to go on the road for this, but I could see the Rams pulling away 30-21. I'll give the Panthers that. They'll hang around for a little bit.
Agreed. I'm definitely taking the Rams in this one. And for the Panthers, I feel like you always go into the playoffs every year where there's just one team that feels like, this is not like the rest of them, right? And that's the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. So 8-9, we make the playoffs, 3-way tie for the division. Why not? They're just happy to be in the dance. I don't think anybody really expects them to advance. But if they did, wow, what an added layer of intrigue post-MVP voting if the Carolina Panthers knock off the Los Angeles Rams.
I think that's a valid point. If the Panthers knock off the Rams, this is Drake Maye's for the taking. Like, your first and if the Pats even get as far as the AFC title game, better start switching things up here with that voting. So, yeah, good point.
I know. So we move on to our second game here, and this is the one that I'm excited for on Saturday. And we have the 2-seed Chicago Bears hosting their longtime division rival, the 7-seed Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love in age 27 season, right? Art Starr won the Super Bowl in age 27 season. Brett Favre won the Super Bowl in his age 27 season. Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl in his age 27 season. Does Jordan Love keep the train rolling for Green Bay Packers quarterbacks in their age 27 season, or does the 2-seed Chicago Bears walk in and upset the Packers at home?
I love the Green Bay Packers. They're just such a great organization, a staple of the NFL. And I'm sorry to bring it down, but I just don't think Jordan Love's going to get it done this year. I think the Bears are just too dominant, and it's crazy that I'm saying that because the Bears have had a turnaround like the Patriots have. It's insane to see what they've done. I've always had faith in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has kind of had the same arc as a Drake Maye. Statistically wise, I lean more towards Maye, and I'm not just being biased. But I pick the Bears at home. I mean, that place is going to be rocking. That Bears-Packers in a wild card game at night in Chicago, that place is going to be rocking, but it's Bears all the way.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we're not going to be too chalk on this one. I think that this is one of the more toss-up games of the weekend just because of the Packers' historical dominance over the Bears. However, this is not the Green Bay Packers team that we even saw in like week 7, week 8. Yeah. Micah Parsons being out, they're very banged up all around. Even the guys that they have out there are playing through things at this point in the season. And the Bears are hitting their stride at the right time of year, getting this game at home. One of the last games that we're going to have at Soldier Field, because we know that Chicago is going to end up being one of these teams that's getting a new stadium. They're going to relish every single moment of this. New head coach and Ben Johnson. And I would just say, rooting interest-wise, I've held my tongue a lot on the Patriots Super Bowl conversation. But if I'm like looking into my crystal ball and saying, who do I want the Pats to play if they make it all the way? Obviously, number one would be the Rams, just for that Matthew Stafford, Drake Maye showdown. I want to see that, right? Number two would have to be the Chicago Bears. I would love to see Caleb Williams against Drake Maye. I think it's a very long shot, especially this year, that we get that as a Super Bowl. But seeing the number 1 versus number 3 overall pick in that draft, first-year head coaches on both sidelines, one of them being an offensive mind, one of them being a defensive mind, that would be a fantastic matchup to preview, to watch. It would be a super fun game there. I don't know if we ultimately end up with that, but I think the Bears at least advance past this weekend against the Packers. I'm picking the Bears in this game. So now we move on to Sunday with the 1 o'clock window, and the 3-seed, 13-4 Jacksonville Jaguars are hosting the division rival here, right? The Buffalo Bills, 6th seed in the AFC playoffs. And an interesting location for a game like this in Jacksonville, Florida. Tyler, who do we like, the Bills or the Jags, to advance past this game?
I mean, we want the Jaguars, don't we? Right? To anybody listening, watching us, we want the Jaguars. I think the Jags, I would say Jags and Texans, and we'll touch on the Texans in a few minutes. I think the Jags are the sleeper of the AFC, maybe even the whole playoff picture. I don't know. Like, I don't think Jacksonville is such a, for a city that is the biggest city in the country landmass wise, it's still a small market. All Duval County has are the Jaguars. And I don't think they get the love they do on a national level, but towards the back half of the season they have. And I think Trevor Lawrence is just having an incredible season. And I think he's really fitting into the new system well. And Josh Allen and the Bills, like I said last week, maybe I didn't say this last week, or maybe I've just been saying it so much that I don't know if I said it last week on the show, but the Bills still scare me. They, like, if we got to go against the Bills, like, of course Josh Allen wants to beat us badly. You know, we kind of stole his thunder this year. Not even kind of, we did. So I'm going with the Jaguars, and I think the Jaguars have a very good chance at knocking off Buffalo. Buffalo's just a little bit like the Chargers to me. I think they're just kind of clunky. I think they're good, but there's just things where they shoot themselves in their own foot. You know, there's a lot on Justin Herbert with the Chargers. There's a lot on Josh Allen with the Bills, and he makes it interesting for a while. But the Jaguars just have a confidence about them that is scary. And they're going to be scary to play in the divisional round if we got to take them on. So, but I'm going with the Jags this week.
I love that pick. I'm going to change things up just so we're not picking all the same teams. But, I think that this definitely feels like a spot where the Bills can trip up heading down to Florida. We saw them a few years ago have a stinker in the playoffs in Jacksonville, right? Like, so it is not entirely outside of the realm of possibility that they do that. But it's more about this Jaguars team this year and who they've been, especially since trading for Jacoby Myers. Their offense has been lights out. Their defense has been lights out. They scored 30-plus points in 10 consecutive games this year. That was broken week 17, and then they got right back over 30 again week 18. They have been clicking on all cylinders. Again, another one of those teams that just feels like they're going into the postseason riding a high right now. But on the other sideline, you have a guy that can put on the Superman cape in Josh Allen and just will this Bills team to a victory. I think out of any of these lower seeds, Josh Allen is the one that is going to be able to single-handedly win the Bills a playoff game or two. I think that happens here this Sunday. As great of a season as the Jaguars have had, as bright of a future as it looks like they have, especially in one of the weaker AFC divisions, they could definitely sustain this success over the course of multiple years. They have a lot of pieces. I don't know that this is a great matchup for them just because it is Buffalo this year. So I'm going to go with the Bills in this game just to keep things interesting. That moves us now to the 4:30 game on Sunday. We have the Eagles and the 49ers, the 3-seed Philadelphia Eagles hosting the San Francisco 49ers, who did fall all the way down to the 6th seed after their loss in week 18, where they had a chance at the number 1 overall seed heading into the NFC playoffs. But we haven't seen all that much from the offensive side of the football from the Philadelphia Eagles this year. I'm going to start things off here, Tyler, and I'm going to say that walking into Philadelphia, the West Coast San Francisco 49ers are going to get an upset over the Eagles and bounce the defending Super Bowl champions in the first round of the playoffs. I have not liked what I've seen from Jalen Hurts this year at all. He had 2 halves of football, second halves of football this year, where he did not complete a single pass. That is not a sustainable way to run your offense. The entire defense could key on stopping Saquon Barkley without worrying about guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside, as crazy as that sounds. I think San Francisco, even though their pass defense isn't the greatest thing in the league, I think that their offense does so much for that team. We had a stretch of almost a month where they didn't punt the football at all. I think that, again, those are one of these hot teams entering the playoffs. Even though they're a low seed, I see them walking into Philadelphia and beating the Eagles. Tyler, how do you see this one going?
I'd love to disagree with you so we can keep some some change going on here in these picks, but I'm right there with you. I don't trust the Eagles, and I rooted for the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year, not because I wanted Kansas City to lose. I just felt like their timing was right in being a superior team at the end of the season last year. I have not been, like you said, I have not been impressed with Jalen Hurts. I think a year ago, Jalen Hurts would have gone into that game at Buffalo and just eviscerated the Bills. I think he's a different player this year. I know everything's year to year. People change, and it's hard to be that competitive 12 months out of the year or whatever, every season is what I'm trying to say. But Jalen Hurts has always been a kind of a really standout QB to me since he's been in the NFL, and I've admired how he plays and what he brings to the table, despite his corny motivational quotes at his press conferences. But he's just something different. And Philly has seemed very dysfunctional this year. That's kind of been my critique of every team I'm not picking. They're clunky. And the Eagles, I don't know. It's just not there for me. And I've always kind of been a closet 49ers fan. I loved Brock Purdy. I know he's had a few up and down years due to injury and whatnot. I know the Niners were what the Niners were last year, but I think the Niners I think they're going to be in it at the end. I think San Francisco, even if they're on the road, something about the way the Niners are clicking right now. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is a QB whisperer. The fact that Mac Jones went in there for a few weeks and looked incredible. I'm not a Mac Jones hater. I could go and I'll go into that episode, how I feel about Mac Jones. But I think Kyle Shanahan will figure this out and get this team far. I don't know if they're in the Super Bowl, but I think they're going to be hanging around for a few weeks. So I'm going with the Niners also.
All right, and that moves us to the Monday night game. We're going to come back to the Patriots for last here. And you mentioned, two clunky teams, right? And I think that's exactly what we have in this Monday night football matchup with the Steelers and the Texans, the 4 seed and the 5 seed. Two clunky teams. You can look at the Steelers, maybe even both sides of the ball there, a little bit clunky, one of the highest paid defenses in the league, but didn't really perform like that this year. On the flip side for the Texans, their offense, very hit or miss this season. Another one of those teams, I think, like the Chargers, that when you're looking on paper, they have all of the talent there, but actually getting them to perform to that level has been a challenge for them. And on the defensive side of the ball for the Texans, one of the absolute best defenses in the entirety of the NFL. Who do we like on Monday Night Football, Tyler?
This is just kind of one of those. This is kind of one of those games. Whoever wins this game, I think, is out in the divisional round. I'd want to root for Aaron Rodgers, but I think the defense of Houston pulls away. I think the Texans are probably the only wild card that makes it out in the AFC. That defense, I think, is incredible. They got hot right when they needed to. Steelers, to me, just, I don't know. It depends on how Aaron Rodgers feels that day. You know what I mean? That final game against the Ravens is up there for game of the year. I think I'm just saying that because of how it ended with the missed field goal. But the Steelers are like the Panthers. They just have a better record. They kind of got in by luck and something being on their side, luck being on their side. But I'm going with the Texans. I trust them more, but I don't think this is going to be a flashy game. I'd say 13-10, 16-13 maybe. Might even go to OT. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there as well. Low-scoring game here. The best unit for either team is hands down that Houston defense. Definitely a pick-me-up this week for the Steelers offense as they get DK Metcalf back from his 2-game suspension. But I would be lying if I sat here and told you that this time last week I expected the Steelers to be in the 4 seed and not the Baltimore Ravens. I think I'm very surprised to see them actually make it out of that AFC North division. And I don't think it lasts very long for them here as they go up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. As much as I would love to see Aaron Rodgers move on, and that could create some intrigue with a potential Patriots matchup there at Gillette Stadium with the Steelers, a chance for the Patriots to redeem themselves after that horrendous looking week 3 loss for them earlier in the season. I think Houston makes it out of this game, and that makes things very interesting moving into the divisional round with how things reseed out there. All right, last but not least, we've kind of hung on to this one for a while here. We're going to be picking our Patriots game against the Los Angeles Chargers, Sunday Night Football on Wild Card Weekend. Tyler, who you got in Pats Chargers?
It's going to be interesting if they make it past this game, and we actually got to be honest about things, because that's when it gets real serious in the divisional round. But I'm obviously going to go with the Patriots. I think I kind of, when I was jumbling my words earlier, I was kind of basically saying my pick. But I think it's going to be like 28-21, maybe 28-20, maybe like 27-17, like a 10-score game. Like I said, I think the Chargers will hang around. The Patriots might have some playoff jitters out of the gate, and especially maybe Drake Maye. But he's in good hands. Like I said, Vrabel most likely has a very meticulous game plan against the Chargers where he'll just break them down quarter by quarter. And by the time we get to the fourth quarter, I see the Patriots up by like 4 points, and Herbert throws a pick or something, and we get the ball back and score again, and then we're up by 2 scores, and then that's it. But yeah, obviously going Pats.
I'm going to take the Patriots as well, of course. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I don't think we get that double-digit victory in this game. I think the Chargers defense is just so good that they're going to be able to kind of keep things close for their offense. Herbert's going to make enough plays in the game to keep that offense kind of pacing New England, especially in the first half of this one. We'll see. I think that you're spot on there with the early game jitters is something that we've seen from Drake Maye periodically throughout the first 2 years of his career here. Obviously, no playoff games to look at from him yet. The track record's not great in those games, as we mentioned earlier, for Herbert. So what we have to go off of right now for Maye in a game like this is how he's performed on prime time this season. And he's 4-0. He completed nearly 75% of his passes in those games, 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns. He has been absolutely lights out when the lights are bright. So I'm going to take the Patriots in this one. I'll go 30-23. We're going to get some field goals in there. We talked about the red zone earlier on. I would love to see all of these drives end in touchdowns, but being realistic, I think both defenses make a key stop here or there to kind of keep this at a 1-possession game. All right, guys, so we are way over our time here, but had a ton of fun once again here on the Patriots Roundtable podcast. If this is the first time you guys are hearing from us, we'd like to welcome you to the Patriots Roundtable community and invite you to go check out even more of our content over on roundtable.io. If you guys have already been there and are checking out the podcast because you're already a fan of roundtable.io, we welcome you to the Patriots Roundtable podcast and hope that you continue to join us moving forward. For Tyler Geis, I'm Eddie Murata. Cannot wait for this Pats-Chargers showdown this weekend. For Patriots Roundtable, we are signing off until next time.